Belle is arguably the UK's most luxurious train. Its rake of Pullman coaches are second to none. However, in America, there was a Pullman service that would have given even the Belle a run for its money in the luxury department, the Santa Fe Super Chief. Right around the time when the Belle was making its debut, the Atchison, Topeka and Santa Fe Railroad were beginning to put their own plans in place for a new type of train designed to take passengers from the Dearborn Station in Chicago to the Union Station in Los Angeles, a trip lasting nearly 2 days. The Atchison, Topeka and Santa Fe Railroad were well known for their passenger services and introduced many new innovations and features. It had a notable advantage among the throng of other railroads competing for traffic. They owned its own direct route from Chicago to California and owned its own tracks. The line ran through Kansas City, Albuquerque, and even around the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon route was a very lucrative route, if not a visually beautiful one. The 1930s was a revolution in both colour and sound in the movie industry, and many called it the golden age of Hollywood. Productions of movies such as Cimarron, A Bill of Divorcement, Baby Berzalax and The Big Trail catapulted the likes of Katharine Hepburn and Shirley Temple to the heights of stardom, with many people flocking to see them both on and off screen. Chicago itself was a leader in the motion picture business back in the early 1900s and had more theatres than any other city in the States. Despite a decline in the 1920s with the explosion of Hollywood, many high-profile film companies held offices within Chicago, and many high-profile movie premieres were held within the city. The superstars of the film industry, movie producers, big movie bosses and directors would have reason to travel between Chicago and Los Angeles, and the quickest way was on the railroad. The Santa Fe Railroad wanted to commission a luxury train to facilitate these stars. The trains would be stunning with every facility the stars and the elite could ask for, coupled with the very top spec in technology. So the railroad looked to an alternative mode of propulsion, diesel-electric. The EMC 1800 HP BB diesel engines fitted the bill nicely. Those powerhouses were built by the Electromotive Corporations and were an experimental design to showcase the future of rail propulsion to potential railroads. The first two engines, number 511 and 512, were scantily clad to show off its power and capacity. Its 1800 horsepower engines made short work of any loads it was dragging, and it was one of the first of its kind with the ability to be what's known as being lashed up. This means that multiple units can easily be connected together and driven by a single crew while out in the field. The railroad was impressed, but they were less than impressed with the boxy design. As this was to haul a very exclusive train, some sprucing up of the exterior was desperately needed. The air intake was hooded, and it was given a new colour scheme with the 1930s streamlining. The new livery helped smooth the sharp corners into a more pleasing shape. There is a well-known phrase that less is more, and with the twin engines, it was a phrase that was taken to heart, literally. The cladding intending to hide the wheels did not allow for excess heat to escape, causing a hotbox, and the hoods on the air intake, while stylish, caused a now very obvious problem of blocking the air intake. This caused a very hot engine and a rather embarrassed company. Vents were cut into the hoods, but by the end of the year, the railroad concluded that the engines were simply not going to work, and in less than a year, the engines were replaced. Their replacement is more what we associate with the Super Chiefs, the EMC E1. Once again built by the EMC, they are made that they could work independently or with additional cabless booster units. They were the same power output, around 1800 horsepower, but now each boasted a twin 900 horsepower Wintons, and each one now responsible for its own traction motor. What made the engine stand out was the style. The EMC was under new ownership, General Motors, and they knew styling was everything, and that what was under the hood didn't have to be new, but if it looked good, the punters would go for it. Major detailing, including adding a new nose and red and silver streamlining, screamed, "Look at me, I'm fashionable." Units 2 and 2A and Units 3 and 3A were used exclusively on the Super Chief, while Units 4 and 4A were stored as backup engines. These new engines matched up to the hype, and as anticipated, stars of the silver screen flocked to use them. Soon it became known as the Train of the Stars, with paparazzi waiting at the station's platform to see who was travelling about. As the service was all about being A-class, it needed more than just the Chief standard stock and the course. When you choose luxury, you choose Pullman. It replaced the stock with an all-Pullman train, and in 1938, the ALCO DL109 joined the Super Chief fleet. Its 6 4-stroke diesel engines and turbocharger made short work of the 636 miles the trains would travel daily. After a slowed service during World War II, the Super Chief and its non-Pullman counterpart, El Capitan, would always run alternate to each other. The El Capitan would run on even-numbered days, and the Super Chief would run on odd-numbered days, with neither running on the 31st of the month, if there was one. Between them, they would run the breadth of the country in a mere 40 hours. In 1951, the train would receive one of its most unusual coaches Pullman would ever produce, the Pleasure Domes. These 6 cars were exclusive to the Super Chief and were without a doubt the most stunning carriages that Pullman would ever produce, and it could be categorised into 4 sections. The turquoise dining room is a private dining experience and was decorated in gold, silver and blue accents. The turquoise room could seat up to 10 people comfortably, with the kitchen car nearby for the stewards to cater for them. The main lounge is for the majority of the passengers assigned to the carriage. It had diagonal seating and catered to those who wanted to take in the scenery or have a relaxing chat. If needed, an alcove was provided to passengers wishing to work on papers or writing in privacy, while the large panoramic windows afforded beautiful views. The lower lounge was a small enclosed lounge complete with smart cocktail bar. It was small and could only seat about 10 people, but it afforded after-dinner drinks and a nice catch-up. But the star of the coach was the Pleasure Dome. The Pleasure Dome stood proud of the carriage roof and offered a 360-degree view of the entire route. The roof was made of glass and half of the chairs swiveled around. Because of the anti-glare properties in the glass, the view was unaffected by the lights and people could see for miles around. The Pleasure Dome was decorated with representations of South Indian art, and the art included sand taken from the various states that the railroad ran through. The Chiefs were an instant success. It was smooth, modern, fast and staffed with the top crews who offered the best in both services to the public and to the train, and millions of people from all walks of life would be drawn to it, and it drew in the clientele the Santa Fe had hoped for. It became the train to ride. By the 1940s, the railroad pushed to get the business specifically from the motion picture industry, and it was decided that passenger agents should be employed with the sole task of remaining in contact with the studios. To help and avoid paparazzi and starstruck fans, celebrities would disembark at the quieter station at Pasadena rather than Los Angeles. If needed, the railroad would also organise press releases so the stars were not overwhelmed when they're stepping on or off board. The Chief would carry thousands of stars, and even the odd president or two. In the meal department, the Chief was only second to a 5-star a la carte restaurant, and it did not disappoint. The pleasure domes would be coupled directly to the dining car to ensure the freshest and hottest food be taken and available to the exclusive diners in the turquoise room. The room was promoted as the only private dining room on wheels, and meals would consist of lobster, steak, caviar, lamb and champagne. Basically, if you wanted it, you got it. The Super Chief did not just take stars to and from places. It was a star too. It featured in its own movie. In 1952, it was used in the film 3 for Bedroom C. It starred Gloria Swanson, who had starred in many silent movies and in the acclaimed film Sunset Boulevard. It was her first ever role in a colour film and her last ever Hollywood production, although she would go on to other films and featurettes. The film centred around the train, showing off its features, and it was billed as a great marketing ploy for the Santa Fe. However, the movie tanked at the box office and the film faded away. The Chiefs ran uninterrupted until 1954, when the Chief took over the main service running continuous sleepers from New York to Los Angeles, with Chicago now becoming a through route. It continued offering its services until 1971, when Amtrak took over the service. It dropped the name and the prestige thanks to a decline. The Super Chief last ran in April 1974 before it was renamed to the Southwest Limited. Gone were the Pullman coaches and the celebrity status, but the train was opened up for the masses to enjoy. The Southwest Limited was renamed to the Southwest Chief, and the Chief is still running the same route today. It offers rooms and coach travel ranging from $400 to $1,250 for individual rooms, and the food, while not a la carte, is still first class. The Super Chiefs definitely lived up to their name, and they were named the Train of the Stars with good reason. If I ever reach America, it is a dream of mine to travel by the Chief's stunning ancestor. It no longer pulls Pullman anymore, but it's still luxurious. But if you want to sample the very best in American beauty and takes the same route as the likes of Judy Garland and Humphrey Bogart, then consider travelling by the Southwestern Chief. Honestly, it's 40 hours you'll never forget.